Alright, hi folks. So I wanted to do an interview with Noelle because I've done an interview with everyone, to be honest with you, as far as Zoe, Zara, and now Noelle, but just basically her take on Seattle. Just some of the questions that we commonly get in the comment section. So hope you enjoy the video, and here it is.
Okay, so what do I like about Seattle? There's a lot of things that I like about Seattle. Probably the number one thing, and the one thing that I really recognized as soon as the plane touched down here for the first, well, my second time arriving, but our first time as our family, is the proximity to water. And, you know, we're not on the coast, but it is still saltwater. We're on the Puget Sound, and I think there's just something that is renewing about being able to go to the beach and feel the breeze and smell the water and hear the waves and all of that, and it just like really helps to reset me. So being in a place where I'm not landlocked is awesome. I think being in the Pacific Northwest, being here in Seattle, there is a lot more acceptance in terms of ideals and attitudes and stuff. It's by no means the perfect place to live. There's still racism and discrimination, and there's a lot of racial tension and issues going on in the city. But there's still a lot more acceptance. We're not looked at and stared at in a like, you know, what are you kind of thing. There's a huge Asian population, the largest Asian population that I have ever lived in, other than when I, you know, was like an infant and lived in Korea, but that doesn't really count because I don't remember it. So being able to be in a city where I'm like, I can go into a room where I'm not counting how many other people there are that look like me. You know, I have a staff of students that is predominantly Asian, and that's just so bizarre for me to be able to experience, and for the girls to be able to grow up in a place. You know, we have a lot of the doctors and official people that they see in the community are Asian, so they see reflection, at least of me. There's definitely not as large of a black population as other cities that we've lived in, but you know, there's trade-offs that we have to make. So the acceptance, I think the liberal attitude, although I will say, like, the more I guess the older I get, I realize that I am truly a Midwestern girl. I grew up in Indiana, and so I have kind of those Midwestern values, but I definitely have a liberal attitude and liberal outlook on life, and believe in acceptance and believe in appreciating where other people are coming from. And so there is some of that. Then there's just a lot of like alternative, you know, the hippy dippy frou-frou kind of be in touch with your mother crystal spirit and all of that. Like there's just a huge mixed bag of a variety of those different views. And you do have conservatives as well, you know, to like throw in, but there's a certain piece to Seattle though that I miss out on in those Midwestern values. But you know, there's Tacoma, which is to the south of us, which is a much smaller city. And that is kind of where I feel like I feel comfortable. Because in Seattle, there's kind of this pretentiousness, this like keeping up with the Jones rat race kind of feeling of, because everything is so expensive and everybody's so like techie, or you think that everybody is so techie, that there's just this, I don't know, it does not help my anxiety. So Tacoma is nice because it's a little bit slower pace, and people walk down the street and greet you. We were there for Mother's Day, and people walked down the sidewalk like 3 different times, and people just randomly like, hey, happy Mother's Day. And it really took me back, and it was like, wow, that's stuff that you would probably experience in the Midwest. And so I really appreciate that. coupled with the ideas of progressiveness and acceptance and stuff. So kind of that. I love that there is a lot to do. There's a lot of great city parks. There's a lot of great, you know, big city things to do. The public transportation is decent, getting better. The big city aspect, the pro sports, all of that. That's what I like about Seattle. So the question is, if you are planning on moving here, do you need a degree to survive? I would say yes. And I would say if you're working with an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, it might be a challenge still. So I have my master's degree, and my master's is in social work. My work history, kind of like my career history, I started out, my bachelor's was in communication studies and Spanish. I started out though with a career in higher ed, so working at a college campus. And that's kind of where I just got my professional experience, and that's kind of where I started and grew. Once I was in that for a few years, I realized that I had a call to go to social work. And so I got my master's in social work. I did that for a couple of years, but I was really missing education and being in the world of higher ed and working with college students and development and all of that. So I ultimately found my way back into higher ed. So I have a master's degree. I have career experience to kind of back that up in a couple of different areas. So I have a little bit of flexibility being here. And so, I don't know how much I've shared about how I got here, but how I got here with this job was a complete fluke. I found this job posting. We were not planning on moving, found this job posting, put in for it, didn't tell Herschel about it, was like, there's no way I'll get it, but hey, this sounds like a really cool job. It sounds like things that I've done, things that I would love to do and master and grow and develop, so why not, right? And it took on a life of its own. And so our 3 to 5 year plan of getting to the Pacific Northwest, whether that be Seattle or Portland, became a 3 to 5 month plan. Everything was consolidated. So my job search was not in any shape or form typical of what most people's job searches are like. So I recognize that, I own that, that I've had privilege in that sense. But being here, it is highly, highly, highly competitive, and it's a little nerve-wracking. And so I honestly don't know how people who don't have degrees or people who are working in minimum wage jobs, I don't know how they survive, because who don't have a degree to back that up. And that's with a master's degree. For people who don't have that degree to back that up, and who end up in, you know, a working class type of job or a minimum wage job, I really don't know how they make it. I mean, they did raise minimum wage to be $15 here, and $15 an hour, but still, you know, rents are expensive. I don't know what rents start out in the city, but we, for 2-bedroom, we're probably a little bit on the lower end, but our rent continues to increase every year. So it's just, it's tight. And then all your utilities and everything else, it adds up very quickly. So, moving here, you have to be prepared. Unless you're moving from a similar market where your rent is expensive and living expenses are higher, then you can probably transition better. But if you're coming from a much smaller market where, you know, you're used to a 2-bedroom apartment being $800 or $900, that's not the case here. Even down in Tacoma, I don't know, you might be hard pressed to find something that cheap. So it's just being prepared to have a hard time finding a job, and then being able to really be able to have a fruitful life without a degree or a good job to back that up. So is the Seattle freeze a real thing? I don't know that people necessarily aim to like be mean or to not want to engage, but I definitely have had more trouble making friends in this city than I have anywhere else that I've ever lived. So I don't want to, and I don't want to blame completely the Seattle freeze. But here's some things for why I've had a challenge of making friends. So the position that I have at work is kind of an odd dynamic. That I am there's only like 3 other positions that are like my position. And so most of us are on a team and we're cool and I've kind of made friends with them. But everybody else who I work with are in a different position, but they're all the same position. So they all have this like cohort, but my cohort is much more limited. And so there's just work dynamics that kind of prevent some of those natural friendships from happening. So I have really good work relationships with people, but I wouldn't say that like I have made a ton of friends through work, which has typically been how you make friends, especially as an adult. I feel, and again, this could be this, and I will fully own this, that this is, I think, part of my own anxiety in terms of trying to make friends. So when we moved to New Mexico, I joined a meetup group for mamas. And it was great. Like everybody was just really down to earth. Everybody was very supportive and like made some really cool friendships through there. Also made some friendships through work, made some friendships through having Zoe in daycare, stuff like that. So it was like very natural to make friends. Here, I just feel like there's a lot of, like, you know, I talked about there's a lot of alternative ways of thinking and alternative ways of practicing life, living life, I don't know. And so I feel like there's just this, I don't know. I don't really prescribe to a certain method of parenting, or I don't prescribe to this certain idea. And so I feel like there's always pressure of like, oh, well, you know, what do you believe in about the crying out method? And what do you practice this? And what do you practice that? And like, I just parent. I just try to keep my kids alive, try to keep myself sane. So there's, and you know, and like when it comes to like bedtime routines and eating routines, you know, my kid's vegan and my kid's gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, chicken-free, fun-free. Like I don't know. There's just all this pressure. And so I get really worked up about trying to make relationships with other moms because it's like, I don't prescribe to what I think they might prescribe to. And it could be totally harmless, but I think that has been a big barrier for me, of me seeing like people practice all these alternative lifestyles and different diets and restrictions and stuff like that, that I think that gets in the way. So perhaps it's my own way of thinking that has prevented me from making friends. But also it's kind of expensive. And so a lot of people here are coming from 2-parent households, so finances are a little bit better, or you have somebody that's in the tech world who their income is going to be better than me being in education. So there's a lot of things that are done, or, you know, that you might get invited to, but it's, you know, a $60 dinner or $50 dinner, or it's, you know, come play here, but it's an admission fee. So some of those are just cost prohibitive, and it's not really my thing. Like, let me go to the beach and hang out. But then it's like, I don't know. There's just a lot of pressure that I think that I put on other people, and I also put on myself. So I haven't really met a lot of friends here. You know, most of my time, because I spend so much time at work, and the girls don't get to see me a lot, and I like to try to give Herschel some relief. Like, I just like spending time at home and chilling with the kids and with Herschel. And like, Herschel really is my best friend. So yeah, I kind of yearn for more outside connection, but I've also had to learn and realize that the friends that I've made in other places that I've lived, those are still my friends. Like, doesn't matter if they don't live here. Like, yes, I can't go and hang out with them all the time, but they're still my friends, and that's still like a personal enrichment that I get from those friendships and those connections. So sometimes just an hour-long phone call with a friend can help make a difference in my life and can help give me more perspective. So I don't know, at this point I have a few friends. One is actually moved out here from Indiana, and we went to grad school together. So that I can't really, I mean, it's a friend, but I can't count that as a friendship that I made here. A couple of the other friendships I've made from work. And then another friendship I made through connecting with other Korean adoptees here in the Seattle area. So, and that's really about it. And for now, I just feel like my life is busy, and so I don't put a lot of emphasis on trying to find friends right now.
Okay.
So if Seattle is your like dream destination and this is where you want to be, but you have no job and no plans, but you just want to come and move here, I do have a true story of how this has been successful for somebody. So my friend that I went to grad school with, she and her husband, or her boyfriend at the time, wanted to be in Seattle. Like, they wanted to be here. So they up and moved. They sold their stuff, traveled very lightly, and they moved from Indiana to Seattle. They didn't have jobs. They had no idea. They didn't have a place to live, and they just moved out here. It worked out for them. They, you know, were lucky and they found an apartment. They found jobs within a couple of weeks of being here. Mind you, she has her master's degree also in social work, and he also had a bachelor's degree and had some legal experience. So they were able to find reasonable jobs within a reasonable amount of time. This was 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago. So they were successful. They have now, like, he has gone on and he went to coding school. And so now he has, coding experience, which is like the Seattle way. And she has a job with the VA. So they're doing very well. They got married here in Seattle. They found a great place to live. So everything worked out very well for them. I don't know how many other people have that kind of experience. I mean, for us, we would have not had that luxury to just pick up and move because we had kids at the time. So for a family, it's definitely going to be much more challenging, because you're going to need, you know, you won't be able to be in a 1-bedroom apartment if you have more than one kid, I think. And finding a job, like, you just have different responsibilities. But if it's just you by yourself, or you and your significant other, like, and a dog or a cat, I mean, go for it. Live your dream. See how it all plays out. Be prepared to really hit the ground running. And, like, the thing is too that we had a challenge with is finding housing. Because here in the state of Washington, you as the renter, you only have to give 20 days notice. So most states are 30-day notice. So you can go all the way up until the 10th of the month and then say, you know what? I'm leaving at the end of this month. So a lot of places won't know if they have vacancies until the 11th of the month. And a lot of places also want you to show up and do open houses and have the application and have deposits and everything ready. Like, we went and checked out a place here a couple of months ago, and you know, we were like, well, let's just go see. And the guys told us the time to come by, and there was probably 5 or 6 other couples that were also checking it out. And while we were upstairs, somebody else had given their check and their application. And by the time we walked downstairs, it was already gone. Like, it was no longer a consideration. Not that we really wanted it anyway, but things go so quickly. So if you have any kind of connection, if you have somebody that you know that lives here that can, like, do an open house for you, my friend had done that for us and, like, Skyped us through a unit that we didn't end up going with. We actually found this place. We moved in sight unseen. I found it through Craigslist. Was in constant communication with the manager, trying to find out if they had vacancies and stuff. And so it was a little bit nerve-wracking. But if you don't have the pressure and you're able to, like, hustle it up or something, or You can camp or stay in your car because, you know, that's a lifestyle here too. Go for it. I mean, yeah, good luck. So I've given you a lot of kind of my random thoughts on Seattle. I have a lot more, but that can be 5 other videos at another time. So hopefully you're able to glean something from my my ramblings, kind of what I enjoy about Seattle, what have been some of my personal challenges of living here in Seattle. If you have other questions or other things that you're curious about, please comment below, ask me your questions. I'll be happy to answer them in a follow-up video. If you have plans of coming out here and have a family and have other considerations, certainly I would love to give you some insight on that. If you liked the video, give me the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't. Please feel free to share if you have friends that are planning on moving to Seattle or are thinking about it. And until the next time, bye guys.